All right, sure. Matt Walsh has defeated all trans people. I can't believe it's ending like this. People keep linking this. What is this? Breaking. The largest trans healthcare providers in the U.S. are rubber stamping letters approving gruesome life-altering surgeries. It's such a racket, my producer was approved for testicle removal in 22 minutes. The tape is disturbing. Presumably your producer is an adult. So, okay, it's the United States of America. What's your producer's like, what, 40? If you go to a doctor and you're like, yeah, I want an what's it called? Orchiectomy? Orchidectomy? Something like that when you get your balls removed. Um and you ask them and they'll be like, yeah, okay, we'll get you on the list, I guess. Like, yeah, all right. You're an adult. Sure, let's go through the thing. Why not? I love my collection of out of context clips that are meant to dehumanize trans people and their medical providers. Let's go. First, some background. Ari Gruner is a licensed clinical social worker who educates doctors on trans healthcare. At a recent training session for the Juniper Center, Gruner explained she writes whatever letters her patients want because she's not a gatekeeper.
We sort of will go again into understanding that I'm not going to be a gatekeeper. I'm not going to be a person that's going to stop them from accessing care. I'm not there to determine if they're trans enough. I'm going to write them this letter.
Okay. Is it her responsibility to be a gatekeeper? Licensed clinical social worker. To what extent is she expected to, like, is this a violation of her? She's not a medical worker. She's a social worker. Should she be doing medical gatekeeping? Why would a social worker be? I mean, if that's not her job, that's not her job.
Any
Groner was referring to the WPATH standards, which major hospitals follow. They require trans patients obtain a letter before undergoing surgeries, but Groner tells her audience to treat the letters as a persuasive essay and to greenlight even suicidal patients. Okay? I still think it's incredibly strange that transgender patients specifically require like a special outside like therapeutic approval to get procedures that, like, if a cisgender boy with gynecomastia or like whatever the thing that makes you get bitch tits is, like, if they want to get that removed, you don't need to go to a social worker to prove your case before being put through the medical system. Like, this is a specific standard that we put for trans people. So like, I don't care. Additionally, if a person is suicidal, that might be a good reason for them to get gender affirming medical care, considering the fact that all of the research we have on gender affirming medical care suggests that it has a very low regret rate and that it reduces suicidality. It seems simple to me. Now, obviously, I'm not suggesting that getting trans healthcare will immediately cure suicidality. However, on average, if you have a choice between accepting or denying a trans person into a process of medical care for them, denying them will probably have worse outcomes on their mental health than accepting them. I think the statistics back that up. I'm pretty sure that one's a closed case. You know, there are no guarantees when it comes to mental health. It's always a matter of probabilities.
Any psych history that might be helpful to sort of showing the necessity. So if, let's say, a client has a psych history that includes like suicidal
Thanks, woman.
ideation or a suicide attempt, and you can connect it to the gender dysphoria, that actually can be sort of a positive, persuasive essay piece. And I'll talk about that in a little bit, because you can kind of show what this is so necessary, right? This is how this is impacting this person's life. And
also, what is the letter supposed to be if not a persuasive essay? Like, if this person, if Groner believes that medical care would be the best thing to help this person, what is their letter supposed to be? It's literally a letter of recommendation. That's literally the thing that it is. What is that supposed to be besides a persuasive essay? What that is literally the thing that it is meant to be.
this is why this procedure is necessary and needed. I have found that when I frame it in a, we're going to kind of use this as a persuasive essay and we're going to really, kind of stick it to them, there's a little bit more fun with it in the way we even use language. So I found that to kind of be helpful with clients.
Oh, okay. I've said this before and I'll say it again. A lot of people think that there is a way to capitulate to the far right by not doing the things that conservatives dislike the most with regards to trans healthcare. But what everyone needs to understand is that the thing that people like Matt Walsh don't like is trans people. No matter how it's handled, no matter how carefully or responsibly, no matter how many barriers or levels of medical gatekeeping are put in place, everything that remains, apart from the absolute and total abolition of trans people as a social construct, will be, to them, abuse, grooming, etc., etc. There is no capitulating here. It really is an all-or-nothing situation. We don't have to pretend that they're acting in good faith. Number 4, Groner explains insurance companies won't pay for these surgeries unless the patient is diagnosed with gender dysphoria, so she says healthcare workers should provide the diagnosis. Look at Matt Walsh with all of his incredibly good faith criticisms of the pharmaceutical industry and the fact that companies make money, hospitals make money from providing trans affirming medical care, suddenly taking issue with people not paying out the ass for uninsured trans healthcare. So what he seems to be actually angry about here is the concept of you should diagnose people so that they get covered by insurance. Which is how literally all diagnoses work. This is how everything works. I'm medically uninsured, of course, because gambling is a sin, and insurance is just a form of gambling. I'm Christ-like in that respect. But were I medically insured, you know, your insurance won't cover stuff unless your doctor makes it clear that that's the whole outpatient thing. You can't just shop around, I guess, unless you have really good insurance. You know, your doctor needs to recommend stuff through diagnoses. That's how it works.
And who's asking us to write these letters? So oftentimes we're being asked by surgeons or physicians, but in reality, it's really for the insurance companies. That's what the letters are really for. And I think that's important for us to keep in mind. We have to use the DSM in our letters for insurance company. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. As y'all can tell, I'm not like the biggest DSM fan. So I just think it's important to highlight because of this requirement. And this is something I'll explain to the client. So I'll talk about
like this, like what is being said right now could be the case if she was speaking on literally any healthcare procedure. This is not trans specific in any way. You need a diagnosis or like a doctor's referral in order for insurance to cover it. This is a ubiquitous, complete and total US healthcare thing.
About, you know, your insurance company is saying as, you know, or sort of a requirement for this letter for the surgery that you have to have this diagnosis, and we'll kind of talk about that. So knowing that this, you know, sort of American Psychological Association or DSM, there's this history of pathologizing and categorizing queer people as sort of sexual deviants.
DSM-5 is really weird for trans people, especially in wording and language. Yeah, okay, remember all that hot water that Abigail Thorne got into for saying that gender dysphoria isn't real? Obviously, gender dysphoria is real in the sense that it's an experience that people have that negatively affects the quality of their life. Therefore, like, it is real in like an experiential sense. I think that, like, thinking about it broadly, though, it is worth pointing out that, like, this is a diagnosis we only give to trans people when basically the same thing happens to cisgender people, but we don't medically gatekeep it in any way. There are so many masculinizing procedures and surgeries that guys go through, cis guys, that is absolutely them trying to medically change their body to better align with how they believe a man should look, how they want to look as a man, that are not categorized as gender dysphoria, and as such do not fall under the purview of medical gatekeeping, though even for them, of course, they would still need a doctor's referral for insurance to cover. Yeah, like the leg lengthening surgery. Like, yeah, but women aren't going to China for leg lengthening surgery. Women aren't doing that shit. They're not breaking their shins and having it extended 4 inches to heal and be taller. That's not a thing women do, you know? Well, I guess they're going out of country to do it because it's considered a dangerous procedure, so that's not necessarily an insurance thing. Okay, but we laugh at that? Honest to God? Okay, real talk. I unironically think that you shouldn't. The guys who are so upset about their height that they're going to get the leg lengthening surgery are categorically indistinguishable from trans women getting facial feminization surgery, in my opinion. Seriously, I really do. It's exactly the same thing that's motivating them. It's exactly the same thing. They have a specific belief of how they, as a woman or man, are supposed to look, a range of physical features of phenotypical expression, of height, of facial shape, whatever, that they think they should fit into, and they don't, and they want to pay a surgeon to fix that up for them, you know? I know we're all kind of silly about it. We all kind of laugh, right? Like, you know, oh, he went to China to get his legs lengthened. But think of the position a guy has to be in to even consider that, right? Like, really, you know? That is a big thing to do. And you know that, like, all of his friends, all of his family were probably telling him, dog, you don't have to do this. Like, you're fine. You're fine the way you are. We love you the way you are. But, like, he does it anyway, you know? I'm just saying, you know? Stuff like this matters a lot to people. But the guys with the leg lengthening surgery, they don't need, nor would they be given, a diagnosis of gender dysphoria. What do you think about hair plugs? Fine. Sure. It's easier than ever before to keep your hairline. As a guy, sure, why not? People are like, embrace being bald. Why? You've one life. Why would you? Why like? You should be bald. Why? What about microblading? I don't know what that is. Sorry.
There is that minimal trust. So what?
Vaush, you're comparing optional cosmetic surgery to surgery that we're trying to fight to be medically insurable as a medically necessary surgery. No, you're not listening. That's the point I'm making. I'm saying that I think they're basically the same thing, but for one, we have this wall of medical gatekeeping for trans people, and in the other, it like, you can just do it. Though leg lengthening surgery is a bad example, because again, you have to go out of country to get that surgery, I'm pretty sure, because it's not considered that safe. But, like, broadly, there's a ton of stuff that you can do as a guy, you know? A lot of older guys get testosterone injections. I probably will, too. It's supposed to be pretty good for you as you get older.
I talk about is that we're using the diagnosis to ensure that clients get that necessary treatment.
Vaush, you're talking out your ass now. Talk with any therapist that can diagnose BDM. What's BDM? What? Whatever insurance companies might think of that, it's the industry standard. Oh, okay. Well, Matt Walsh is acknowledging... Okay, I don't know why you would include a video where you're like, did you know that trans medical procedures fall under the same system of insurance company gatekeeping as literally everything else? And then he would go, okay, well, this applies to literally everything, so, all right. The popular trans telehealth service, Fox Health, for example, instructs patients that even if they don't, quote, fit the definition of gender dysphoria, the diagnosis is needed so insurers pay out. And then what the prompt actually says is, you may not fit this diagnostic code exactly, but in some cases the code is needed in order for insurers to pay for the surgery. What is suspicious about this? This is a totally normal... They're literally saying, hey, like, this is the you know, standard by which you'll be judged, but you might need this, like, in order for insurance companies to cover you. You would see this for, like, anything, for any healthcare thing. Like, hey, this is the diagnostic criteria, and just so you know, you will need... Like, this is totally across the board, you know? This is what I mean by, like, don't pretend they're acting in good faith. They're literally just pointing at the American healthcare system right now and going, this is how they're grooming your children. Did you know that transgender activists want to make it so your children have to get health insurance and then have to have their conditions diagnosed in order for insurance to pay out rather than just paying out of pocket? Did you know trans groomer activists are doing that? Like, oh, well, that's crazy. I can't believe trans people are responsible for the state of the American healthcare system. That's grievous. I do hate them now. Now I am transphobic. Thank you, Matt. Matt Walsh says, folks, which provides letters authorizing surgeries for a nominal fee, goes on to admit it's quite possible patients will receive a letter indicating a gender dysphoria diagnosis. even though they really do not have dysphoria. And then what they actually say is, Chucky in chat says, Vaush, it feels like you're missing the point by comparing trans healthcare with cosmetic surgery. One's medically necessary, the other's not. No, your brain is small. You have to expand it, okay? They're both cosmetic surgery because cosmetic surgeries can be necessary for your mental well-being sometimes. Think of cosmetic surgeries done for like burn victims or people who have that like upper lip snag thing. Don't you do yourself a disservice by separately categorizing trans healthcare because that's what leads to you guys having the medical gatekeeping. In reality, all the stuff, cleft lip, thank you. In reality, like the shit trans people go through in terms of this horrible feeling of anxiety and like a terror over their body and shit like that they need like medical, this is not specific to trans people. It is experienced both most commonly and most severely by trans people. But overall, the category of thing you're experiencing is a human experience, extreme discomfort with your body and its presentation based on your belief of how a person of your sex or gender should look. That's not a trans-specific thing. But we treat it like a trans-specific thing, which is why you guys get the medical gatekeeping. I'm of the opinion we should recognize that in actuality, right, like all of this is critically important, you know? And there are a lot of cosmetic surgeries that are also medically necessary. I think we should be willing to we should expand the net. We should rope more people in, I think, in the understanding that like we get one life and people care a lot about this stuff and we should treat it, I think, with an appropriate amount of respect. Should all cosmetic surgery be insured and medically provided? Well, I think medical care should be free. So that's the ideal answer. The short-term answer is I think that some cosmetic surgeries absolutely should be provided for, 100%. I think that we could reasonably establish a standard for medical gatekeeping that differentiates between the kinds of things that people go to surgeons to resolve that are like eat away at them and mean a lot to them, and like, I don't know, a Hollywood celebrity getting lip fillers or like their 17th Botox injection because they want to look 18 for the rest of their life. If we can do this for trans people to understand that a cosmetic surgery, which again, trans affirming surgeries are, you're not getting bottom or top surgery or facial feminization surgery because it's medically necessary in the sense of like your body will collapse if you don't. It's not like a heart surgery, right? Like it is cosmetic, but it's important cosmetic surgery. We just have made the mistake of conflating cosmetic with trivial, and that's not true. Cosmetic shit is not necessarily trivial. Our appearances matter a lot to us. Our bodies matter a lot to us. Okay, I'm done with this. We all deserve free healthcare. All right, I'm moving forward. We're moving on up. All right, we're zooming, okay? So what the org says is, it's quite possible the information in a letter may not be specific to you. For example, they may use a gender dysphoria diagnosis, but you really do not have dysphoria even if you want top surgery. Again, this is completely normal thing for a medical organization to say or to acknowledge, that you might not specifically meet the exact diagnostic criteria for this. This reminds me a lot of like off-label use of medication, or like sometimes you can have like conditions that aren't exactly the same but are tangential to each other, so you would get the same procedure for them anyway. You know what I mean? There are so many cases where stuff like this is normalized. It's stuff like, okay, a good example would be my costochondritis, right? Which is almost gone, by the way. My costochondritis, the inflammation of my sternum, the tendons around my sternum, there are a bunch of ways to treat costochondritis, and all of them are kind of scuffed, okay? Like, it's like, oh, try this, oh, try that, oh, try that, oh, try this, with like the end game scenario being they just inject steroids directly into your chest, you know? But the stuff that I've been using to treat my costochondritis is arthritis medication, because it's an anti-inflammatory. It's an I'm toasting my liver for a little bit for the benefit of my chest. So like if you could, so I'm using over the counter stuff, but if you could imagine that I was using like prescription strength medication, it might go like, hey, In order to get this prescription strength medication, you need, and for insurance to cover it, you need a diagnosis of like arthritis, even if you don't necessarily have it. And I would talk to my doctor and go like, you know, I think this medication could really help my chest. And they would go, okay, I am going to say that you have like an arthritic condition so that you can get insurance to cover this medicine. This medicine will help you. It is perfect for helping you, but it is technically like an arthritic, you know, that's what it's for. So like, you know, we're going to like note this down, but for your insurance company, like we're going to say you're having this issue. You have to work with the shitty system. Yeah, people take spiralactone for acne. Women take birth control for acne, for skincare. Stuff like this happens all the time. So again, I'm just making it clear, like Matt Walsh is lying. You know, it's nothing to do with trans people. We reached out to folks about this. A staff member confirmed that a diagnosis of gender dysphoria, with the word diagnosis in scare quotes, is a requirement for insurance purposes, even if it doesn't apply. This is just a statement of fact. To read what they said, to my understanding, the diagnosis of gender dysphoria has become a requirement to have gender-affirming procedures covered by your insurance, even though the diagnosis doesn't apply to all trans folks. This is literally just a statement of fact. This isn't even like an opinion statement. This is like just straightforwardly a factual thing. How is top surgery any different from a breast reduction? Well, fundamentally, it's the same basic procedure. Obviously, it's a more significant version of it. You know, people have their breasts removed for like breast cancer, though obviously that doesn't normally happen to young people because young people tend not to have breast cancer. Though it does happen sometimes, I think. Mastectomy, not reduction. Yeah, there's a difference between the removal and the reduction. Though I did actually know a girl in high school who was underage who did have a reduction, a breast reduction. Her breasts were just, I mean, they were just inconveniently large. I sympathize with her. Her lower back probably really appreciated the breast reduction. Chat be normal. Hurts their back? Oh yeah, for sure. Saying my friend wanted to play sports and got them reduced. Yeah, you know, stuff like that happens pretty often. I want to be clear, by the way, and yeah, I don't want to like hem and haw over this. I don't want to both sides this. You all know that in line with the medical research we have and the data we have and the stats we have, I am in favor of the controlled use of hormone blockers and hormone replacement therapy, even for people who are under the age of 18. Obviously, I think that it should be supervised by a doctor with special training in this stuff, but puberty blockers literally only work if you're young because it's blocking puberty. And if you're like 16 and you've been on blockers for 5 years or whatever, and you want to like get hormones, like, you know, whatever. I am a lot more hesitant when it comes to surgery. I think that waiting till 18 is pretty acceptable for that. I think that like I think that's a more reasonable thing to like give people a bit of pause over. If for no other reason than because even though the regret rate for transitioning is very, 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 very low, it's not zero. Some people will hop off the train, and I think that it's probably good to give a bit of leeway there. Overwhelmingly, this is where the medical standard is in this country. Where, you know, with hormones and with a doctor's approval, you know, some underage stuff, if hormone blockers obviously like don't work if you're already 18 because you've already done puberty, and with the surgery stuff it comes about later. There are always going to be edge cases, exceptions, examples, but ultimately I want this stuff to be figured out and like done by the doctors, you know? This is why you don't want to politicize medicine, because politics and medicine do not get along well, right? Like medicine is definitionally like highly technocratic. You want this stuff being done by experts and professionals. You don't want Congress or state senates litigating the specifics of like, oh, you'll be arrested if you do this at this point. For the most part, we don't do this. But here specifically, like there is an imposition. So far, nothing that we've seen in this gigantic expose is even remotely embarrassing for transgender people. Nothing here is in any way, shape, or form like I don't know, destructive. Number 8. The largest trans healthcare provider in the U.S., Plume Clinic, runs a similar scam. That's not a scam. This is how the insurance company works. They sell letters for $150 authorizing surgeries. That's how our producer, Greg received approval for testicle removal after a 22-minute video call. This is literally how the insurance system works. And this level of gatekeeping, requiring a letter to approve a surgery, is a barrier that exists pretty much only... Like, for trans... Like, this just isn't needing the diagnosis of gender dysphoria to get these surgeries. Not just to get insurance to cover it, but, like, to get them at all. Like, it's... Release the video call. Yeah, I wanna hear about Matt Walsh. I want to hear Matt Walsh's, like, editor or manager or whatever talk for 22 minutes about how he wants his balls removed. I'm sure there are some nice clippable moments from that. In his intake form with Plume, Greg provided a fake legal name. He said he had dysphoria in the past, but he stated he had never experienced it for 6 months or more. Under the current version of the DSM-5, that means he doesn't have gender dysphoria. Oh, nice. Clip. Plume quickly scheduled Greg for a video interview anyway. He assumed the identity Chelsea Bousset. He didn't even attempt to pass. He badly mispronounced the name of the surgery he wanted. He made it clear he didn't know what effect the surgery would have. Sure, let's listen.
So you're currently on estrogen. You're taking 6 milligrams a day.
Twice a day. Yeah, right. You got it.
So you're taking 1.5 tablets
Yeah.
a day? Okay. And then
I will say, I know that it's problematic, but I do think it's funny that Matt Walsh's producer is trying to nail that, like, floaty bird-like autistic stare that a lot of queer trans people do. I'm sorry.
Significant history. All right. Okay, so let's kind of get into this a little bit. So you are seeking what surgery? Things that are of course you probably don't know, things that are irreversible when it comes to estrogen-based therapy is breast development and testicular shrinkage, right? But there's always a possibility for hair growth to come back. That may change with orchiectomy. Once you stop, once you don't no longer have your testes, you no longer have the ability for your teeth to convert to BHT because you don't have as much teeth, right? So hair growth, facial and body hair may change after orchiectomy. Fat redistribution is affected by the estrogen. So you may have less of a change in fat redistribution if you ever stop eating.
So wait, what's the issue with this? This is just the person. They're literally just, like, patiently explaining everything. The guy lied and said they're on estrogen. Yeah, so he said he's on estrogen, which means that in line with what this doctor believes, there's already, like, some kind of standard or medical record. Yeah, this is literally informed consent. This is what we do for every other medical procedure. That, like, this, like, did you know that our producer failed to pass a 50-question true or false quiz on the effects of the that doesn't matter. Do you think that you're given a quiz on what, like, a open heart bypass will be? Get your average fat American who needs a triple bypass on a table and ask them what you think what they think you're going to do, and they'll gurgle at you. Like, that's not how the American medical system works. As a patient, informed consent isn't you have to be an expert on the procedure. If we followed by that standard, then nobody would get health care because nobody knows anything in this country. Like, this person is just explaining everything calmly. What's the issue here? This is more education than most people getting most surgeries will get.
But it may change as a whole. So it kind of does have a benefit without the spironolactone, but you still probably would definitely want to take estrogen.
I'm not complaining about the daily pills, just to be clear. I'm just saying if it accelerates it and makes things faster, then that's bad.
What was revealing in this? Like, What was revealing in this? The person doing the video call is just patiently explaining what. It's so eye-opening. Maybe the big reveal will be in this 34-second clip. Of course, Elon Musk is the top reply to this. Obviously, truly phenomenal stuff. Oh, because I don't have room for it in a segment. Like, there's not much to say. Elon Musk earlier today is now replying and signal boosting to actual Nazi posting, like Jew posting. You can do adrenochrome, that's Biden, or you can hate the Jews, that's Mel Gibson, the guy who got blacklisted from Hollywood because he ranted about Jews. Which way, Western man? And then Elon Musk is like, wow, that anti-Semite's really that buff these days? So this is actually the most explicit thing I've ever seen him comment on. I don't know, like, I know that Elon's stupid, but I don't think he's so stupid that he doesn't know that this means Jews. Like, he sought this post out. It only has 1,000 likes. It probably had just a few hundred when he replied to it. So he was, like, seeking out something about the Jews to reply to because he likes signal boosting these accounts. He has to be deep in to even see that post? Yeah. I didn't know that meant Jews either. If you know anything about Mel Gibson, like literally anything, if there's one thing you know about Mel Gibson, it's that he's an anti-Semite. That is the one thing you know about Mel Gibson. It's not, look, here's Stone Toss being happy about it. Like, it's not ambiguous. Anyway, here we go. So far, nothing out of the ordinary. The Jays means the Jews. What? No, really? You're being sarcastic, I see. Yeah, sarcasm. Okay, you know, it's hard to tell sometimes with you guys. All right, so far this thread has not been even remotely problematic, but let's take a look at this final one. Nevertheless, Plume's nurse practitioner said she wanted to write the most solid letter possible to justify surgery. Greg tells her that he once wrote an essay in school about being a woman, which everyone thought was ridiculous. What?
Give me a little bit of history with your gender dysphoria. That may kind of help me. I want to make this letter as solid as possible to be like, this orchiectomy is definitely needed.
I'll tell you, I'm happy to. So when I was in school, and I actually wrote a big essay for admission to a club about how I didn't feel like my biological sex went along with how I felt, and I told people that, and they thought I was ridiculous. So because they thought I just look like a guy, so they like this is ridiculous.
What does this mean? It really is, I think, an endorsement of how like good transgender people are and their allies. That this is supposed to be an expose. Like, this bit right here didn't contain anything other than the producer guy lying. There's no, like, nothing here. It's literally just, hey, did you know that the American healthcare system is kind of f***ed? Biological sex immediately gave away the game. No, trans people say biological sex sometimes. It depends on the trans person. A lot of trans people say, like, tranny and transsexual, you know. It's up in the air with the language. Anyway, like, this is... Back from reading the dictionary. Well done. This thread is the biggest nothing I have ever read. Nothing here is even remotely interesting or embarrassing. My only takeaway is that the American insurance company system is a scam. Lamau. When you add Lamau at the end of your tweets, it's how people know that you're smart and irreverent. Did you see Musk like a post calling for autistic people to be sterilized? No, it's not. Okay, this bothers me because a lot of people don't seem to be familiar with, like, the rhetoric. He didn't like a post calling for autistic people to be sterilized. What he's saying is that transgender activists are sterilizing autistic people. The line is that trans kids are actually autistic kids that groomer adults are accusing of being trans. What the redheaded libertarian is saying that Elon Musk is liking is that Elliot Page is saying that we should sterilize autistic kids because giving trans procedures. So he's saying his kid should be sterilized. No, he's saying that trans activists want to sterilize autistic kids. He's such a simp for that account. The redheaded libertarian lady's almost certainly a Nazi. Works with Tim Pool, I'm pretty sure. He's just an idiot. No, he is an idiot. He's also a Nazi. Yeah, basically everyone on the right who calls themselves a libertarian is a Nazi. This, like, literally, this happens all the time.